Lieutenant Commander Amon, I understand you're one of the first who shot down one of the Russian MiG-15 jet planes.
That's what they told me when I got back.
How does it feel?
Well, I didn't feel anything except very pleased that I'd hit him. In fact, I hadn't known I'd hit him for certain until the boys in the division told me he'd gone in. I was too busy trying to save my own neck after exceeding my allowable speed.
You've just watched a compilation of confirmed MiG-15 kills over Korea. A full unedited gun camera footage is coming up later in the video. If you enjoy this kind of historical restoration work, a like and subscribe makes a real difference. Many of you said that the AI narration in the earlier videos were off-putting, which is fair criticism. This generally from now on gives a human voice. And rest assured, you will never see AI-generated visuals in my videos. Korea, late 1950. For months, United Nations aircraft owned the sky. Prop-driven bombers like the B-29 and fighters like the T-51 Mustang pushed the North being challenged. Early jets, such as the F-80 Shooting Star, the F-84 Thunderjet, and the Grumman F-9F Panther operated with equal freedom. Air superiority was unquestioned. However, the tide was about to turn. By late October 1950, some 200,000 Chinese troops had crossed into North Korea to fight on their side, and on November 1st, the Soviet 64th Fighter Aviation Corps deployed under the PLAAF and took to Korean airspace. The jet age had arrived like a hammer strike. That same day, MiG-15s grew blood. 15 P-51s were intersected during a ground support mission. Lieutenant Fyodor Chish downed Mustang pilot First Lieutenant Aaron Abercrombie. Hours later, 3 MiGs lashed into a formation of 10 F-80s. The Soviets claimed Frank van Sickle was shut down. U.S. records of ever claim it was hit by ground fire crashed into the hills. The MiG-15 was a generational leap, with a blistering climb rate, violent acceleration, and the altitude authority to dictate when and where combat happened. For the United Nations pilots, the sky was no longer permissive. It was predatory. 9 days later, the first MiG fell. Lieutenant Commander William Thomas Amon, flying a U.S. Navy F-9F Panther, shot down Captain Mikhail Grachev. You'd hear Amon recount it himself shortly. The U.S. response escalated. The P-51 Mustangs slowly spoke out for the F-86 Sabre. With radar-assisted gun sights, high-G maneuver authority, and pilots trained to push the envelope, it was the only aircraft that could face the MiG on equal terms. The fighting concentrated into a single corridor, where the Yalu River cuts toward the Yellow Sea. The valley was fast, violent, and unforgiving, and the world came to know it as MiG Alley. But the air wasn't just an Air Force arena. carrier aviation had something to prove. The F-111 launched from the USS Philippine Sea, pushed deep into contested airspace where every merge risked escalation and every egress was a gamble. It was here in this crucible that William Amen made history. November 9th, 1950. The Korean peninsula is locked under cloud and cold. U.S. Navy sky ridges are hammering bridges across the Yalu River, the thin frozen boundary between Korea and China. Above them, danger moves fast. From Amtung Air Base across the river, Captain Heir Fedorovich Grechev leads a squadron of MiG-15s into the fight. Their mission? Cut down the sky ridges before they reach home. But the attack doesn't go unanswered. Above the strike group is VF-111, the Sundowners, flying F-9 F-2B Panthers up the USS Philippine Sea. Among them, Lieutenant Commander William Thomas Amen, with guns loaded. The Knicks dive first. Hard, fast, and confident from the 9 days of air dominance under their wings. The Panthers pivot and give chase. The Soviet formation fractures into singles and pairs. Clouds tear apart side pictures. Jets vanish and reappear like ghosts between the clouds. Through the weather, Amen spots one MiG breaking. The Soviet captain yanks into a sharp left turn, reverses, then rolls hard into a dive. His wingmen couldn't hold the maneuver. Contact is lost. It's a one-on-one now between Amen and Grechev. Amen commits, follows the MiG down through the cloud and whipper, wings vibrating under heavy G-load. Closing fast, he squeezes the trigger, and the 420mm cannons answer. Phasers rake across Grachev's fighter, sparks, then flame. Amen's wingman watches the MiG plunge into wooded slope below. Impact followed by a rising column of smoke. Grachev never returns. Once credit for the first confirmed jet-on-jet kill remains disputed, this was the first jet-on-jet kill that was confirmed by both sides. Lieutenant Commander William Thomas Amen, first to score in the new age of air combat. The following clip is an interview with Lieutenant William Amen 4 days after he had shot down the first MiG-15. If you instead wish to see the unedited clips of confirmed MiG kills in Korea, skip ahead to the next chapter. The audio quality of the following clip was quite poor, but I did my best to remove unwanted background noise.
Lieutenant Commander Amen, I understand you're one of the first who shot down one of the Russian MiG-15 jet planes.
That's what they told me when I got back.
How does it feel?
Well, I didn't feel anything except very pleased that I'd hit him. In fact, I hadn't known I'd hit him for certain until the boys in the division told me he'd gone in. I was too busy trying to save my own neck after exceeding my allowable speed on... He was in a dive, and I got going too fast for my own good. Tried to shoot him and had to quit and pulled up over a hill and never did see him go in.
Commander Deacon, I understand you were the strike leader on this mission.
Yeah, that's right. I had charged the strike going in, and I made my dive on the bridge and dropped my bomb, and on pull-out, I made a left turn and looked back at the other planes that were dropping a bomb, and when I was in my turn, this swept wing made a pass at me and started to fire, and I saw tracers going by, and he pulled up in the air, and Tom was alongside me and got right on him. Sure helped me out.
Did he hit you, or was it a near miss?
No, sir, he didn't hit me. I was maneuvering. Still heroes, eh? You bet.
Ensign Holman, I understand you were the wingman here, and you were the one that saw the jet was on his final dive down into the ground.
That's right. I was following the skipper through, and he winged over the jet, swept wing jet, that is. He went straight in. When he hit, it exploded. Ball of fire. That was the last we saw.
Were you able to see, get close enough to see whether it had a red star on him?
No, we weren't that close. I don't think he had any markings whatsoever on it. I don't think anyone saw any markings on him. He was just silver job. no markings at all seen by anybody. I think there were two of them that came down through our formation, and only the one that actually did much firing, the other one evading more than anything else. But one of them did bother us quite a bit before Tom got it. What do you think, Tom? Did you see another one?
No, in fact, throughout all the time we chased him, I thought there was only the one in the sky. And
we had high cover above us before we pushed over on the target. And they were, of course, engaged with other swept wings up there. And the only two that actually came down through the formation, the best we can figure, there were two. Only one fired, and he came down to about 5,000 feet. He covered us all the way on the pullout. And Tom came right down with him, and we weren't particularly bothered then. Once Tom got on him, we headed for home.
yeah, the more I think of it, the more I think that high cover, which had 4 or 5 others in sight, was probably trying to keep them for themselves. That's why I never knew there was more than the one.
Yeah, unfortunately, we were there because they'd have been down through us too, and we would have had a bad time tonight.
That's right. You can't have too many friendly jets anymore, can you?
No, I like to see the friendlies.
What are the characteristics of this Russian-made MiG-15? I mean, just how does it look like, or what can you see?
Well, I think Tom had a pretty good look at him. He chased him long enough.
Well, it looks an awful lot like an F-86. Around March Field at San Diego, we were fortunate enough to keep getting run into by F-86s from the Air Force, and these MiG-15s look just the same, except for a more slender rudder, and the elevators mounted higher on the rudder.
Ready more than the ready, straight over.
When you look at them from a plan view from on top of them, they look an awful lot like an F-86. And there's no recognition problem out here because they're the only swept-wing jets in the area.
About how many were in the air?
Ready more than the ready, straight
There
over.
were 4 or 5 that the high cover up around 30,000 feet saw and watched, sitting on the Manchurian side of the border, and there were 2 actually down lower than 20,000 feet, although only one that we got behind and chased, which is the one we got.
We figured 6 to 7 in total in the air over the target at the time, and of which only 2 actually bothered the dive bombers. The other 4 or 5 were engaged up above, and it's pretty hard to keep track of how many planes are up there. We had, what is Tom, about 6 of our own jets up there.
I don't know.
I think we had 4 come down with us on the dive. The cover's coming on down, and then we had another 4 that was supposed to be up at high cover, although it's pretty difficult to tell where they are at 30,000 feet.
Now, we had 8 jets cover for 12 Corsairs and 16 Corsairs?
16 Corsairs.
12
dive bombers.
12 ADs.
We all dropped on the bridge and then pulled out with the jets supposed to cover us.
Yeah, you dove to the southwest, and I dove at about the same time over the town to take a look at the field, too, if I could, although I watched you. I got out in front of you too far, started a 360-degree turn to come back even with you again. About the time I was halfway around, I heard somebody in your flight say they're shooting at the skipper. And I didn't hear the skipper say anything, which was sure. But I
Too busy.
I cut around the rest of the turn thinking I did not like to be so far out of position as I'd got myself, although there was no way to change it, and saw you starting a big turn. Your rendezvous had been planned for 22 or 3 miles south, and you actually rendezvoused about 5 miles south to get that over with.
Yeah, we were in a little hurry to get rendezvoused in order to get our groups together for mutual protection. And we rendezvoused as soon as possible right after that at some 5,000-foot altitude.
In fact, we hadn't seen the MiG as we came around our turn and got back to the head of your formation, and didn't know exactly where to look, so we looked everywhere. But one of the Corsairs called and said, he's in behind our jets now. We looked back there and saw him, turned into him, made a pass at each other. Neither one could fire, and he went by us, climbed and turned, and just set it up perfect for us to get behind him. We stayed behind him for about almost 10 minutes. Went from about 4,000 feet up to about 16,000 feet, and then got back down to about 3,000 feet before we ever